Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing a deep dive into a topic that, well, for many involved with nonprofits, it conjures images of. Let's just say something less than thrilling.
Uh-huh. Board meetings.
Exactly. Board meetings. The sources you shared, they really capture that common feeling, describing them like watching grass grow in slow motion while someone reads tax code aloud,
Yeah.
or even wondering if jumping out the window would be less painful. I mean, ouch.
That imagery, it definitely hits home, doesn't it? It speaks to that deep frustration when your time just feels wasted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here, right?
Mm.
To unpack this source material you sent over and figure out how we can maybe transform these sessions. The sources call them bureaucratic black holes,
Yeah, that's a good one.
but they want to turn them into strategic powerhouses, which honestly sounds like a pretty tall order.
It does, but the sources are actually surprisingly quite optimistic. They really make the case that these meetings don't have to be this, necessary evil. They argue they can actually be productive, engaging, and, dare I say it, enjoyable.
Enjoyable board meetings. That sounds,
Different.
well, revolutionary. All right, let's dive into these sources and see how they suggest we pull this off.
Let's do it.
So the very first thing the sources emphasize, like right out of the gate, is the absolute need to define the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They pinpoint this core problem. Meetings just sort of happen without a clear destination. People show up, but they don't really know the specific outcome they're supposed to be working towards.
That's such a basic point, but so crucial, isn't it? It's the difference between, say, having approved the budget as a goal versus just having budget update on the list.
Exactly. One's an action, the other's just information.
Right. And the source uses this great analogy. A clear purpose makes the agenda a roadmap instead of a random collection of topics. You actually know where you're going.
Yeah, I like that. And a really practical step they connect right to this is setting out the agenda and all the prep materials at least a week before.
Oh, that's huge.
They actually call it a survival strategy. Because if board members show up prepared, they're just so much more valuable. They can help you reach that purpose.
Makes total sense. Trying to make big decisions with people who are seeing the info for the first time, forget it.
Yeah. The source compares a meeting without purpose to a root canal. I'm not sure which is worse.
Huh. Right, and thinking about it, that clarity up front is just vital for any real strategic work. Maybe you can get away with less prep for simple updates, but if you need that collective brain power, people have to have the context beforehand.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, how many meetings just kind of drift along without that sharp focus.
Way too many, I suspect.
Okay, so building on that focus, the sources then look at the very start of the meeting. They talk about the common trap of just jumping straight into the numbers or, dry reports.
Uh-huh. The eyes glazing over moment.
Totally. They say faster than donuts at a police convention. And let's face it, most people don't join a board because they're dreaming about spreadsheets.
Exactly. So their second key insight is, I think, really powerful. Open with heart, not spreadsheets.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Start by reminding people why they're giving their time. Share a quick story about a client, maybe highlight something great a staff member did, celebrate a recent win.
And they're really clear this isn't just like warm, fuzzy fluff.
No, definitely not. They call it fuel. It helps everyone reconnect with the mission, the impact, that's the why they signed up. And connecting to the why makes them much more engaged in the how, the actual work you need to do.
That really reframes it. It shifts the thinking from, oh, another meeting about money to, oh, right, this is actually about changing lives.
Precisely. It creates what they call emotional alignment, reminds people they're co-creators. The source even describes it as a shot of espresso for the soul.
Huh. I could use that before most meetings.
Me too. But it's fascinating, isn't it, how just intentionally bringing the mission into those first few minutes can completely shift the energy, making it feel less like an obligation and more, well, inspired.
Okay, so we've got purpose, we've connected to the heart, the mission. What about efficiency? The sources really hit hard on wasting precious board time on routine stuff.
Oh, yeah. The mundane.
They have this great line. Life is too short and your mission is too important to spend like 20 minutes discussing whether the minutes from 3 months ago accurately reflected Susan's concern about the office printer.
We've all been in that meeting.
Definitely. So that pain point leads to key insight number 3. Master the consent agenda.
Ah, yes. The consent agenda. Explain that a bit.
So it's basically a tool where you bundle all those routine, non-controversial items, approving old minutes, accepting standard reports everyone's already seen into one package. And then the board approves the whole bundle with a single vote. Boom. Done.
The source called it the express lane at the grocery store for the boring administrative stuff.
Exactly. I love that analogy. It really highlights the main benefit, which is freeing up time.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have more space for the important stuff,
Yeah.
strategic discussions, creative problem solving.
And they noted it's especially valuable for boards that maybe only meet quarterly, right? Where time is even more precious.
Mhm.
They said it's more valuable than a coffee IV drip.
Yes. But, and this is crucial, they add that warning. You must share everything on the consent agenda well in advance.
Right. No surprises. Surprising people with consent items is like giving them a pop quiz. Nobody appreciates that.
Definitely not.
And if you step back and look at the bigger picture here, handling the routine stuff efficiently, it's not just about saving minutes in the meeting. It's actually foundational.
How so?
It creates the space, the mental bandwidth, and it signals a level of professionalism that allows that higher level strategic thinking to even happen. You just can't have a deep strategic talk if you're constantly getting bogged down in administrative weeds.
That makes a lot of sense. You clear the decks first.
Yeah.
Okay, so freeing up time is key. But then how do you make sure that newly freed up time is actually used well?
Yeah.
That it's engaging? The sources point out, lots of meetings feel like one-person shows.
Right. Where maybe the chair or the ED does all the talking and everyone else is just there practicing their poker faces, as the source put it.
Yeah. So key insight number 4 is facilitate conversations, not monologues.
This seems obvious, but it's often missed. The whole point of gathering a board is that diverse expertise, right? You have to actively pull it out.
And they give some great examples of open-ended questions to do that. Things like, what stands out as a risk or opportunity here? Or, does anyone see this differently?
Or even, what additional context might we be missing? I also like, if this were your organization, what would keep you up at night? That's a powerful one.
It really is. Using questions like these, it's not just being polite, is it? It actually taps into that collective wisdom and experience.
Exactly. It makes the strategy stronger. It builds buy-in. The source draws this really sharp contrast.
Yeah.
It's the difference between having advisors and having decorative humans.
Oh, decorative humans. But yeah, you get the point.
And there's another benefit, too. They mentioned that when board members feel genuinely heard and valued during the meeting, they stay more engaged between meetings, too. That engagement becomes contagious.
That's a great point. It builds momentum.
It really makes you pause and think, are we actually leveraging all the amazing expertise we worked so hard to recruit onto our boards? Or are we accidentally making it easy for them to just sit back? Real dialogue is the key.
Okay, so we're setting the stage for better conversations. But how do you stop those conversations from just wandering off or becoming, endless? The sources say good intentions aren't enough. You need structure.
Right. Which brings us neatly to key insight number 5. Assign roles and manage time. You need some structure to keep things focused and, critically, to show respect for people's time.
They list a few key roles, like a facilitator, obviously, to keep the discussion on track, a note taker to capture decisions, and my personal favorite, the timekeeper.
Whom the source calls the hero.
Yes. Someone's got to be the hero watching the clock. Yeah.
And that focus on time management, it's really important. It's not just about good manners. The sources frame it as good leadership.
How so?
Well, if your meetings constantly run late, it sends a message. It signals maybe a lack of planning or maybe a lack of focus. It subtly disrespects the volunteer's commitment.
Yeah, I can see that. Time management is actually part of the culture. It tells the board, look, we value your time. We're serious about getting this work done efficiently, and we respect your investment.
And the difference it makes. The source puts it as moving from board members checking their watches to board members checking their calendars to see when they can help more.
That's a powerful shift.
It really is. And what's interesting is how seemingly small structural things, like assigning roles or just sticking to the clock, can have such a big impact on that feeling of professionalism and respect. It matters, especially with volunteers.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've had a focused conversation. We've maybe made some decisions. We've got roles, managed time. What's next? The sources warn that all that positive energy can just fizzle out if the action items are vague.
Ah, yes. The follow-through problem.
They describe vague tasks as sounding like they came from a fortune cookie author having an off day. And that phrase, someone should do something soon, that is not a plan.
Definitely not. It's a recipe for inaction. So, key insight number 6 is all about clarity. Make action items crystal clear.
How clear?
Like military operation clear according to the sources. You need to recap every single action item out loud before you adjourn, and then follow up in writing.
And they list the essentials for each item, right?
Yes. The absolute must-haves are what specifically needs doing, who is responsible, like an actual person's name, not just the committee,
Right.
when it's due a real date, and how progress will be reported back.
That level of detail.
Yeah.
It really does make all the difference, doesn't it? It turns those good intentions we talked about into actual results.
If you don't have that clarity, things just fall through the cracks. Every time.
And the sources suggest best practice is putting these clear action items in the minutes. Obviously, that's good governance.
Right.
But also sending a separate, quick follow-up email summarizing just the action items. They call that good leadership.
And doing both.
Doing both is the kind of professionalism that makes board members want to stick around.
That makes sense. This is really where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Where the strategic discussion actually turns into tangible progress. If you nail this part, the meeting feels truly productive because things actually happen afterward.
Okay, almost there. Last key insight from the sources, but definitely an important one.
Yeah.
How you actually end the meeting.
Mm-hmm. The wrap-up.
They mentioned the common scenario where meetings just kind of adjourn, maybe with what they called a collective sigh of defeat, or everyone just bolts for the door.
Yeah, after people have just given, 2 or 3 hours of their valuable evening time.
Exactly. So key insight number 7 is end with gratitude, not the collective sigh of defeat.
Take a moment. Don't just rush out. Actually acknowledge and appreciate the volunteers' investment.
And they suggest specific ways to do that, not just a generic thanks everyone, like thanking someone by name for asking a really tough question that pushed the thinking.
Or acknowledging the commitment shown, or highlighting how a specific comment strengthened the final decision or the next steps, making it genuine.
Yeah, genuine appreciation. And they add another little practice right at the end. Spend just 2 minutes on quick reflection.
Oh, yeah. What kind of reflection?
Just asking 2 simple questions. What's one thing we did well today, and what could we maybe improve for next time?
Building in that continuous improvement loop.
Exactly. They say it creates a rhythm of continuous improvement. It builds trust, and it reinforces that feeling for board members of being co-creators, not just, attendees showing up.
It's the difference, they say, between obligation and ownership.
That's a really powerful distinction.
It is, and it prompts that question. Are we treating board service like it's just a duty people have to perform? Or are we actively cultivating a real partnership, expressing genuine gratitude, taking time for reflection that really nurtures the partnership side?
So when you pull all these pieces together, the purpose, the heart, the efficiency with consent agendas, the real dialogue, the structure, the clear actions, the gratitude, the sources are really making a bigger point, aren't they?
Absolutely. They're saying these 7 things don't just make individual meetings better, they actively shape the organization's entire culture.
How you run your meetings is your culture, in a way.
That's the big takeaway, I think. It's not just about logistics. Every agenda you send, every interaction in the room, how you follow up, it all sends signals. It reinforces how leadership works, how collaboration happens, how decisions get made in your organization.
And the ripple effect. They say when meetings are focused, inclusive, maybe emotionally connected, people leave feeling energized instead of exhausted.
And think about what energized board members do. They take that energy out into their networks, into their fundraising efforts, their advocacy. It fuels their long-term commitment.
It really makes you imagine the possibilities, doesn't it? Like, what happens when your board is actually leaning in instead of just showing up?
Yeah.
Asking those thoughtful questions, excited to tell other people about the work instead of, complaining about the meetings.
It completely flips the script. The meeting stops being this hurdle you have to get over, and it actually becomes this powerful engine for driving the mission and building the kind of vibrant, effective culture you want.
So the bottom line from all these sources seems to be pretty clear. Investing in well-run board meetings isn't just some nice extra thing to do.
No, it's a core investment in the organization's long-term sustainability.
It builds trust, it clarifies direction.
And it keeps reminding board members why they said yes to serving in the first place.
The final encouragement seems simple enough. Lighten the agenda, lift the tone, and lead with purpose.
Yeah, because, as the sources wrap up by saying, changing the world is serious business, but your meetings don't have to be seriously boring.
Wow. Okay, that is a lot to digest. But it really paints a picture of the board meeting not as a chore, but as, well, a vital engine, like you said.
Yeah, it's about unlocking the potential of those passionate volunteers.
It feels like it's about honoring their commitment, really, by making the absolute most of the time they give.
Couldn't agree more.
And the sources really left me with this thought. They suggest the quality of your meetings doesn't just reflect your mission's progress, it actively drives it. So the question for you, listening, might be, how could focusing on just one of these insights, maybe just one small change in your very next meeting, fundamentally shift the energy in that room?
Even just one thing, starting with a story, maybe trying a consent agenda for the first time, asking one really good open-ended question, it could really start a surprising transformation.
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into turning board meetings around.